Hi, I'm Paul Page, and I'm here to tell you that voting rights are human rights. So, I'm going to tell you about the right to vote. I'm going to tell you about the obstacles to voting, why voting matters, and how voting helps you. So, the United States Constitution does not give you the right to vote. That was handed over to the states to determine who got to vote. And originally it was white Anglo Saxon Protestant landowners, rich old white guys. So over time, the constraint of landowning was loosened up, and more white men got to vote. So after the Civil War, allegedly all of the freed slaves had the right to vote. But there was a lot of voter suppression that went on and is still going on today. Some of the methods were the poll tax. This is a cartoon by Dr. Seuss that shows his opinion on it. It was basically a charge to vote, and it kept a lot of people from voting. Now, another method was the literacy test. We find this in AmericanHistory.edu. It was basically a test to see what you knew about history, things like that, the state's constitution, and honestly, I couldn't pass it. Another method was purging voters from the registered voter rolls. Now, sometimes this was done just so people passed away, people moved out of state, they stopped voting. But sometimes this was done by a political party. They would get rid of voters that were on the other political party so that when they showed up to vote, they weren't registered, they couldn't vote. Another method is gerrymandering. Now, according to CNN.com, Alex Kina, a political scientist with the Virginia Commonwealth University, has done research on this. Now, gerrymandering is where you design a voting area, a voting precinct, so that it specifically eliminates or includes certain people, like, say, only suburbs, only the city, only farmers. And what happens when you get gerrymandering is you get politicians that don't have to listen to anyone. They're going to keep getting their job. And what Alex Kina says is it leads to legislators who are good at getting elected and raising money, but not governing. Now, how does that affect things? Well, if you don't have any motivation to help anybody or to do anything, then your constituents, the voters, start to suffer. Alex Kina did research on Republican-run states that use gerrymandering and don't use gerrymandering. Both states Republican-run. Now, in the states that were using the identical policies but gerrymandered, healthcare declined, education declined, infant mortality rates declined. Infant mortality rates went up. It affected people's health and their well-being. Now, you might think that your vote doesn't matter, but again, according to actually the Smithsonian Channel, the 2000 presidential election between Gore and Bush came down to who won Florida, won the election. The vote count in Florida came down to Bush winning by 537 votes. Out of an entire country, 537 votes chose the president. If 600 people from the other party had shown up to vote, we'd have a different history right now. Your vote matters also in local elections. You can see that in school boards, local sheriffs, local judges. You're the one who elects them. Now, the thing is, in an election with a much smaller electorate, a much smaller voter base, your vote counts even more. It could come down to 1 or 2 votes, literally. Your vote matters also on issues. If there's an issue up to vote, should we pass this law? Should we not? Infrastructure. Should we invest in bridges, repair the roads? Your schools. Should we build new schools? Do we need new books? Should we repair the football stadium? Healthcare. Should you? Your politicians determine how good your access to healthcare is. There are some states it's pretty restrictive on getting into the current healthcare system. Taxes. Do you want to pay taxes to get things? Would you rather just not pay taxes? So elections might seem kind of complicated. And you might think, okay, there's something nefarious going on. How can we trust the elections? The thing is, there are a lot of people from both parties involved in the election. If you say that one party is involved in fraud, that means the other party helped them because they're all working in the same office. I really don't think, say, the Republicans are going to help the Democrats pull off fraud and get a different president elected. And on Daily Dot, the website is dailydot.com, they have a really good article on debunking the common voter fraud myth. Voter fraud is actually very rare. So you see that voting helps you, you see that voting affects you, and that your voting does affect what happens. So I'd just like to close by saying thank you, and vote. Your voice matters.